Hello everyone, welcome back to Topher Pro. We're in the kitchen again for a special occasion. It is National Puhskinti Day.
Well, let's start a new day. Let's just assign it to a day in a month and just say it's that day from now on. The 28th of November is Puhskinti Day. Squint and eat Puhsketti.
So in honor of National Puhskinti Day, I'll be showing you how to make homemade spaghetti and meatballs. Homemade meatballs, homemade sauce, homemade noodles, everything from scratch. You know, you can make a boxed spaghetti and meatballs dinner for like $10 or something, but you can't put a price on the way Grandma used to make it, the old Italiano way. It's like $50. I think that's all we need for introductions, so with that out of the way, let's celebrate. With spaghetti and meatballs, you start with the meatballs. And as far as meat goes, you want at least 2 different kinds of meat. You never want just one. I'm doing ground beef sirloin and hot Italian sausage for this one. Put the meat to the side for a minute and work on your vegetables. Half of 1 onion. I like my onion finely diced. And then add it to a pot with a little bit of olive oil for 1 or 2 minutes on low. While that's working, take a couple cloves of garlic, hit it with the back end of the knife, finally mince that up, and add that to the pot for another minute. We just want them to warm up a little bit. We're not looking to brown them, we just want them to become aromatic. Stir those around for a little bit and then pull out the parsley. We're just going to do a generous heaping of parsley. It's not going to overpower the flavor. Throw it into the bowl and then we can add the onion and garlic mix. Then add half to 1 whole cup of breadcrumbs, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of basil. With milk, you can take it or leave it. I'll add half a cup this time. 2 eggs, they're gonna act like the glue that's gonna keep the meatballs together. And finally, Parmigiano Reggiano. It's got a sharp, nutty bite that's gonna give our meatballs a little bit of a kick. And then you get to mix them with your hands. It's not real cooking if the only time you wash your hands is before you get into the recipe. Set a pan to medium-high heat with a little bit of olive oil and we will start forming our meatballs. You want them about golf ball size, not too big where they're not cooking into the center. If the pan isn't big enough for all of the meatball mixture that you made, save whatever you have left for later. These are amazing in slow cookers, but we'll save that for another episode. Add what meatballs you have to the pan once it's reached temperature, and turn every few minutes until they're nice and brown on the outside. Once the meatballs are nice and browned, set them to the side, and we'll start with our sauce. We're going to take the second half of that onion, dice it up, and add it to the pan. Give the garlic the same treatment as before, dice it up and throw it in with the onions. Let those intermingle for a minute before we throw in our tomato base. So once the onion and garlic is starting to brown, we will add our crushed tomatoes. 28-ounce can should work. Throw it in and mix your ingredients so far together. Add a big old bay leaf to the sauce. I don't really know what it does, but it must heighten the flavor somehow. And we're gonna add some tomato paste. It thickens the sauce and really deepens the tomato flavor. And before we finish, we're gonna take an orange peel and twine it with some thyme. Add it to the sauce. It's going to add some sweetness, really enrich the flavor, and obviously season to taste, a little bit more salt, pepper, and then add your meatballs back to the sauce and let simmer on low for about 30 minutes. And now we can get started on our pasta, but not before another quick drink. Now the pasta itself is very simple. All you need is flour, eggs, and salt. So you're just going to pour out a generous heaping of flour onto a clean working surface. Form a bowl in the middle, and I'm only using 2 eggs this time for a smaller batch for myself. If you want to do a larger batch for a bigger gathering, use 3 or 4 eggs, add a little bit of salt, and start whisking together with a fork. And as you whisk, start adding flour to the well until you have a cohesive dough. Once it's too difficult to whisk with the fork, just start using your hands. And then once you've formed a dough, start kneading it. So after a few minutes of kneading, plastic wrap the dough so that we can let the gluten rest for a little bit. I don't know what the fuck that means. So once the dough is rested for 5 or 10 minutes, flour your working space, flour your dough. Make sure to flour your rolling pin as well, and then start rolling out your dough to a very thin consistency. Once you've gotten it to its thin consistency, we're going to laminate the dough, basically pulling each side of the dough and re-roll it. You're going to want to laminate the dough 1 or 2 times. So once you have a sheet of pasta, go ahead and put it through a pasta maker on a 6 or 7 level setting. And you're gonna wanna roll this pasta sheet through each lower setting. So from the 6 or 7, you're gonna roll through the 5 setting, roll through the 4 setting, 3, up until 1 or 2. You don't want it too thin where it's going to evaporate once it boils. And then put that pasta sheet through the actual spaghetti maker. And then put flour over your spaghetti and then mix your pasta into the flour so that it's nice and coated. Get a pot of water to boiling and then salt the shit out of it. Then add your spaghetti and stir it for only 2 to 3 minutes. Strain it out and then plate up. Start with your spaghetti, spoon out a few meatballs, add a little sauce as needed, and last but not least, grate the Parmigiano Reggiano to your heart's desire. And if you're feeling a little extra Italian, buy some toasted grissini breadsticks from your local grocery store. They're not the real deal, but they will suffice for this dish. That might be something for me to explore for another video. And that's all it takes for a scratch-made spaghetti and meatballs. I know it's a little more laborious than like from making everything from the box, but compared to like the touch and the love that you put into it, like nothing compares. So I hope you give this a try. I really do recommend it. And for all my little chefs out there, have a happy National Puhskinti Day.
Puhskinti, it is today. So grab your plate and start to eat. Lots of big puhskint. Make sure to squint. Don't leave an inch of all the puhskinti. It is today. Now go away. Puhskinti Day is just okay.